Happy Thursday. Welcome into the Stardom Cinema Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. I'm Kimmy Chucks. The dude in the middle is Adam Rank. And the guy over there is Michael F. Florio. It's week 9, and there are no NFL headlines to catch you guys up
There's
on.
nothing.
There's nothing
Very
happening.
uneventful week.
Just kidding. Aaron Rodgers is not
gosh.
starting against the Chiefs because he's tested positive for COVID-19. We got a little quarterback controversy tonight. Is Mike White better than Zach Wilson?
If he goes out there and crushes it, I think there's a legitimate conversation to be had in New York.
Really?
I would say so,
right?
fitting, given the quarterback news in here. I think so. They're going to have to go back to Zach Wilson, right? I don't know.
If Mike White and the Jets beat the Colts tonight, I could see a conversation.
If he's good, you know what? I was talking to Andrew Hawkins, name drop, earlier. Listen, I don't know.
We all work with them. That's cool.
You know, but him and I are friends.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. The thing is he was talking about how, when you don't have tape on a quarterback, it's really easy for them to go out there that 1 week and crush it. But then, eventually they learn your tendencies.
Right.
So this will be a big test.
New York fans are very rational. Trust me. They're not going to get too excited over Mike White. Not New Yorkers.
Yes, says the guy from
I
New
feel
York.
that's the opposite.
We are going to get to our favorite starts of the week. But before we do that, we're going to run down all of our starts and all of our sits, starting at the quarterback position. So, Rank, take us through your guys.
You know what? A little bit of I feel like there's one guy missing. I don't know if I would have had Carson Wentz on this list, but I think Carson Wentz is actually a good start. But some other guys, I'm going to talk about Jalen Hurts later on in the show. We're back with Kirk Cousins, and obviously if Dak Prescott is playing. If you feel that one's too obvious, I apologize. Ryan Tannehill's another good one. Some of the sit-ems we're going to do, Daniel Jones. I need to quit Daniel Jones.
You talk about Daniel Jones every
I need him
week.
to be eliminated. Honestly, I love Daniel Jones, and I hope that next year he is Justin Fields' backup. But I think, as a starter in the NFL currently, I don't think he's very good.
All right, one of your starts was Joe Burrow taking on the Browns this week. This is a little in-state rivalry situation, but you feel confident starting him against the Browns defense?
I am very confident with Joe Burrow, and he was one of the guys that I really liked in the preseason, which is why I kind of encourage people not to participate in a lot of groupthink in fantasy football, because people tried to make me hedge off Joe Burrow, and I held steadfast, and I got him on a number of teams, and he's been one of the most consistent guys, because coming into the year, I thought this was going to be a very exciting offense, that when you add somebody like Jamar Chase to a team that already has Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, who are very good wide receivers, I thought this was going to be an explosive, very fun offense. I didn't know they were going to win as many games as they've won so far. I don't even think that they would have won. I think I had them tabbed for about 4 or 5 wins on the entire year.
Right.
But what we've seen out of Joe Burrow has been amazing. So I think that I need to, at some point, just kind of be like, hey, everybody, we understand he's starting every week, but that's that.
I think his stock will rise quite a bit, especially as we look ahead to next season. I could see him a top 10 quarterback in fantasy and swag. I know, I see
Swag.
swag.
Oh, yeah,
he does. No, I actually got a really interesting question on Twitter from one of our fans, and he said, what do I do? I have both Ryan Tannehill and Joe Burrow. So I want to ask you, Florio, what do you think about Ryan Tannehill visiting the Los Angeles Rams right next door at SoFi Stadium on Sunday?
I don't love Ryan Tannehill this week. It's the first game without Derrick Henry. I like Ryan Tannehill more long-term because I think he's going to have to pass more now with the big fella out of the lineup for at least the next few weeks. But it's a very tough matchup against the Rams, who have allowed just 16.5 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, the 10th fewest. They've given up just 9 touchdowns. Plus, they went out and they got Von Miller this week, so that's another really big worry that you have there. Julio Jones hasn't been healthy. Adrian Peterson, it's his first game of the year. So there's a lot of unknowns on this Titans offense right now. So I would play Joe Burrow over him, and there's a couple of streaming options I would get over Tannehill as well. I like him long-term, just don't love him this week.
I agree with you. I have Joe Burrow over Ryan Tannehill, but I actually really like Tannehill this week. And I think that it's a situation where this offense, even though Mike Vrabel doesn't want to change it, it has to change. And that's one of the things that we're going to see this week. They're going to have to be more passing-oriented, more than they would like to. This team is built to run the football, but it's not like Adrian Peterson's going to come in there and command a lot of carries. I think Tannehill's a pretty safe start. Last year, week 16, without Derrick Henry, he scored 26-ish fantasy points. So I think that his passer rating goes down, but I think his fantasy points go up. So I think we're safe with Tannehill.
I did giggle a little bit when Mike Vrabel said that. I'm like, no, we're not going to change our offense at all. I'm like, you're not going to trick us.
They should have two playbooks, like with Henry and without Henry, because the offense changes so much.
The one with Henry is it's a little thin folder.
Hand it off.
Little thin folder. And the one without Henry is like this big phone book. A phone book's a thing they used to do.
I know what a phone book is. Let's just go ahead and move on to our stardom instead of wide receivers. Rank, tell us who they are.
A lot of interesting. I think the most interesting name that'll stand out immediately is Emmanuel Sanders, who had 0 points last week.
What was that?
You know what? He was targeted 4 times, but I think that was a game where Gabe Davis stepped up.
Cole Beasley
had a huge game. And honestly, Emmanuel Sanders' 2 worst games this year have come against the Miami Dolphins. So I'm willing to just say, you know what? The Miami Dolphins have his number. Josh Allen is not going to let him go out there and flounder once again. So you can start him. And Jacoby Myers, who I love. Remember, Carolina has, what's his name? Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah.
So I think that could be tough. I think they're going to have, I know that it's a tough running matchup for the New England Patriots, but I don't think they can throw because Gilmore knows that offense too well.
He does, because he used to be a part of it.
What?
Now, one of your starts was Brandin Cooks.
Yeah.
And we always say if there's any consistent thing about the Texans offense, it's Brandin Cooks. He's taking on the Dolphins. Good news for the Texans is that Tyrod Taylor looks to be a start this week. So does that make you feel even more confident in Brandin Cooks taking on Miami?
I do feel great about it. I think that Brandin Cooks is somebody who needs to start every week, especially in PPR leagues. I think that if you're in a standard league, it's a little bit more difficult. He has just 2 touchdowns on the year, but he's consistently targeted. And honestly, when you look at his numbers, if you take away all the weeks where he had just single fantasy points, he had double-digit fantasy points in all those others. No, I'm kidding. I saw somebody with a similar type stat this year. I'm like, that's not fair. But he's had some games that haven't been great. But I think over the entirety of the season, when we look back, Brandin Cooks is going to end up as one of the better wide receivers in fantasy, and I think that he's at least a top 20 guy every week. So to me, it's pretty automatic if you're in a PPR league.
And we just saw he was averaging about 20.5 fantasy points weeks 1 and 2 with Tyrod Taylor under center. So hopefully their little reunion will go great against Miami. Now, a guy who was on your sit list was Mike Williams. Marcus Grant, one of our colleagues and friends, he nicknamed him BMW for Big Mike Williams when he was doing well earlier this season, and now not so much.
But he's the guy who hates when the nicknames are A-Rod or something like that. It's too easy. And then he comes up with BMW.
BMW is kind of cool, though.
The 4th BMW in NFL history.
Oh, is that right?
I think so. Any player who's been named Mike Williams, we just call him BMW.
BMW. Okay, well, Florio, speaking of BMW, since I guess we got a lot of them in the NFL, is this guy a sit for you against the Eagles as well?
He is not. I understand he hasn't been playing great as of late, and the Eagles are tough against wide receivers. Darius
You're saying a lot of reasons why I'm not starting him.
He's been playing great, but Mike Williams is great in his own right. I know the last couple of weeks haven't been great, but he topped 22 fantasy points in 4 of his first 5 games, and in that game,
what about 3 of his last 4?
In one of those games, he was wide open downfield, and Justin Herbert just missed him for a long touchdown.
But you get fantasy points for that, though.
You do, and I think Mike Williams, I think he can create separation against this Eagles secondary. It's just going to come down to Justin Herbert hit him.
Even you're choking.
You're getting choked up.
I'm getting choked up. I want Mike Williams in my lineup badly. I'm starting him everywhere I have him.
When you're spinning this hard, it's hard to speak. I understand. Let me tell you something. You saw the numbers. I'm not making this up. It's like every time I talk about Clayton Kershaw folding in the playoffs, everybody's like, oh, it's a narrative. I'm like, it's the numbers. The numbers say it right there. I can't make that up. Less than 5 fantasy points in 3 out of his last 4. The Eagles have allowed the 2nd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. They allow a lot of production to opposing tight ends, which is why I favor Jared Cook in this contest.
I get it. I'm just trusting the talent of Herbert
Why
and
do I
Williams.
feel like I'm like the counselor and you guys are in marriage counseling and you're just going back and forth?
As a matter, you're right. I'm
here.
going to talk to you because you're the rational one. No disrespect. He's the 4th option behind Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and of course, Jared Cook because of the matchup.
Yes.
That's why I'm sitting him.
Okay.
I didn't think I was going to walk in here today and have to defend myself against one of the most obvious starts of the week. I feel harangued. I really do. Harangued.
Well, these guys did not help you. So if you have Mike Williams, it's up to you to figure out what to do. Flip a coin. One says start, one says sit. It's time for us to take a quick break. But when we come back, are you in a tight spot about your tight end spot on your roster? We have the answers of who to start and who to sit. We'll be right back. This is the Stardom Sit 'em Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. Welcome back in. It's time now for Prepared to Perform, presented by Bridgestone Tires. I need some prepared tight ends, Adam Rank. Please tell me who will be in my lineup this week.
Tyler Conklin is one of my favorite starts of the week going against the Baltimore Ravens, who've given up a lot of production to the tight end position this season. Now, for the longest time, it felt like their FPA was skewed because of a huge game by Darren Waller. But over the course of the season, it's proven that the Ravens struggle with tight ends. But a couple of big names on the sit-em list, Dalton Schultz and Pat Freiermuth. I know a lot of people love Freiermuth this week, but the Bears have been very tough against opposing tight ends this season, and I think that it's the two receivers you really want to go after against the Bears when they're playing the Bears.
Well, if you liked Joe Burrow, then I'm assuming you like CJ Uzomoh, plus he was on your stardom board, so tell me about him.
I do have, again, it's not an ideal situation with the matchup or anything like that, but I think that I really am basing this on the offense. And again, there's a lot of targets to go around on this team, and you could even stand to reason that Uzomoh might be the fifth option when you factor in the running back as well. But I still have confidence. I think that because he does score touchdowns, and as you see right there, he has 5 receiving touchdowns in his last 5 games. I think when you're going with the tight end position, you want to have the guy who has the touchdown upside. It's very hard to find a guy who's going to get a significant allotment of targets, somebody who's going to go get you a lot of yards and a lot of receptions. So who, to me, has the best chance of scoring a touchdown? And he's a very dynamic player with a lot of ability. So, again, I don't feel great about it necessarily, but I think that it's a pretty good option.
A sit, though, was Dalton Schultz, which I found a little bit interesting. Now, the Cowboys are taking on the Denver Broncos, right, Florio? And there's hope that Dak Prescott will suit up and play. But even if he doesn't, do we still sit Dalton Schultz? Are we off of Dalton Schultz completely if Dak does play? Like, what's the scenario here?
I would play Dalton Schultz if Dak plays. I would sit Dalton Schultz in a tough matchup if Dak sits, because I know last week Dalton Schultz let us down, but that was because Dak wasn't out there. But in the games with Dak this year, he's averaging 6 targets per game, 14 fantasy points per game, and he has just one game with Dak this year with less than 6 targets and single-digit fantasy points. So to me, whenever Dak plays, he is going to look his way, especially with Blake Jarwin now on the injury report. So I think if Dak is active this week, Dalton Schultz is a must-start tight end 1. And if he sits, then you get away from him and you go with one of those other options, I think.
I zoned out for a second.
I'm in a disagreeing mood today.
No. It just feels like the same
Spicy.
exact argument you were giving last week for Ricky Seals-Jones against this same Broncos defense when I was telling you not to start him. The Broncos have been very tough against opposing tight ends this season. They've allowed the 4th fewest fantasy points to the position, and obviously Von Miller's now gone, so that could be a little bit skewed. But to me, again, I just feel with a team like the Dallas Cowboys that when you have so many options, when the matchup is that good, and you have CeeDee Lamb and you have Amari Cooper.
CeeDee Lamb on the injury report now.
On the injury report, he sprained his ankle at practice.
Is it Friday? No. I'm not concerned about that. Listen, this is fluid. It's like water. It's like the amoeba. Okay? If CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, then I will go back and edit this show and remove this entire section. But currently, assuming that CeeDee Lamb is able to play, I just think there's too many options. Said Wilson. There's a lot of guys who can catch the football for the Cowboys. And so, to me, he does have the touchdown upside. I feel less confident about this one just because the matchup's so difficult.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some stardom, sit-em running backs. A lot of news around running backs this week, especially some guys who will not be in our lineups, most notably Derrick Henry. So who are some other names that people can plug in?
Well, somebody on Twitter was very offended that I had Najee Harris here. I think it's because it's too obvious, and if Najee Harris has become like a super obvious pick, then congratulations to him. I will adjust moving forward. That's how easy it is. A couple of the names I'm not liking this week. Jeremy McNichols, who I think could end up being a J.D. McKissick type of running back moving forward. I have to see it for a week. I really want to see how they use him in 1 week without Derrick Henry before firing in completely. And Zach Moss has been way too touchdown dependent. And you know what? I still think that he's not their top goal line back. So I'm trying to trade him too.
Ooh.
Because he's spicy enough to where it seems like it's good. It should be good.
Josh Allen is always going to be the Bills' goal line back.
He's always going to.
Sorry, Zach Moss. It's Josh Allen.
He's a
not
good
you.
player.
He's going to get those goal line carries.
He's a good player.
You're back on Myles Gaskin.
Yeah, you know what? This is just one of those situations that we just really love the matchup. I think that Myles Gaskin is going to be difficult to chart. Or not, actually, it's not difficult to chart week to week. When he has a good matchup, you start him. When he doesn't, then you sit. It's not rocket science. I mean, I'm just looking in, and I went in and investigated, what has been going on with his Houston Texans defense. Over the course of the season, they're not exactly the pushover that you would anticipate them to be, but over the last couple of weeks, they've been a little bit more generous. And Myles Gaskin, as you see right there on the screen, has 27 carries over the last 2 games. So I feel very comfortable putting him in over guys like Darrell Williams and players like that. He's like a kind of a low-end RB2 for me, but still a start.
A name that I want to know about, Florio, is Elijah Mitchell. I have been standing this man so hard, 18-plus touches the last 2 weeks. He's also leading running backs with the most rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. But he has, I think, a little bit of a tough matchup against the Cardinals. So what should people do in this situation where you like him, you see the production, but you see on the other side of the ball, he could be going against something very tough?
It is a tough matchup on paper, but I think Elijah Mitchell's at the point where we just start him regardless of the matchup. Like you said, Kim, he has 18 touches in his last 2 games. He has 18 or more touches in 4 of the 5 games he has played this season. He's getting all of the RB goal line work. We just got to hope Jimmy G doesn't run in 2 touchdowns again this week. And while the Cardinals are a tough matchup, a lot of what they do is limit the usage of running backs in the passing game, which is something we don't have to worry about with Mitchell because they don't throw him the ball. They do allow, though, 93 rushing yards per game. So this is a guy who's topped 102 straight games. If he gets
blow the whistle.
90.
Why is this play still going on?
Yeah, he doesn't deserve credit for that touchdown. The O-line does. But on fantasy, he gets those points.
That's ridiculous.
That's what we like.
By the way, if Danny Trevathan hit him while that pile was moving, then he would have gotten flagged. Then everybody would have made a big deal about it. But nope, the 49ers can just go out and do whatever they want.
And you're just mad about that
I'm
because
actually
you're the
not
Bears
mad.
fan on the
Who
other
were they
side.
playing?
Justin Fields played
Bears.
well that game. You can't even.
Justin Fields was good. That's the only thing I care about this year.
It's time for a quick break. When we come back, we're headed to the club.
Why still are we showing
headed to
these
Club Dub
highlights?
to tell you our favorite starts of the week and the guys
Is that
who are
the
going
only
to
game he
guarantee
played in?
25 plus fantasy points. We'll be right back.
He played in other games. It's not hard to look through the archives. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. And time now for the Colonel's Start of the Week, presented by KFC. Do we have some quarterback music there, Tanton? Hit the quarterback music. Listen, I'm turning into Letterman all of a sudden. Listen, we're going to start with Jalen Hurts as my start of the week at the quarterback position. The matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers, let's be honest, it isn't great. You want to start your running backs against the LA Chargers, but Jalen Hurts has proven over the course of the season that he is somebody that needs to be in your lineup each and every week. He has had at least 20 fantasy points in 7 of 8 games this year. The only time he didn't was this game right here. Oh, got to go pick up my kid. Let me turn off this alarm. Sorry, everybody. Hey, listen. The kid's got speech therapy. Got to make sure he gets there. That was a summer thing. But anyway, start Jalen Hurts. Let's go to the running back position. And I love don't look there. We're good. I love Cordell Patterson. He has been one of the most reliable parts of this Atlanta Falcons offense over the entirety of the season. And this week, we love him once again. Once again, the matchup isn't perfect. The New Orleans Saints have a very tough defense. They have been shutting down a lot of players and a lot of teams. But this week, I still feel very comfortable going with Cordell Patterson because things like that. Not only can he run the football, he is a great receiver as well. He is a multifaceted player, so make sure that Cordell Patterson is in your lineup. Now, let's go to the wide receiver position. And earlier this year, this was one of my top guys coming into the season. And then he didn't play so well, but over the last couple of weeks, he's been crushing it, and that's A.J. Brown. And he's got a tough matchup again against the Los Angeles Rams, but I am undaunted because this Titans team is going to have to rally around the passing attack. Obviously, Derrick Henry is not going to be playing for the next couple of weeks. They went out and signed Adrian Peterson, but let's be honest, Adrian Peterson's not showing up and running the ball 40 times, which means it's going to be up to Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown to move this offense. So what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is A.J. Brown really starting to assert his dominance. So make sure that A.J. Brown is in your lineup. And those were the Colonel's Start of the Week, presented by KFC. Kimmy, I'll be over. Actually, I need to go. Sorry.
Rank, thank you for running over here,
Thank
my
you.
friend. Since you just gave your starts of the week, why
I can
don't we
take
give
this
you
off?
some free advice and do Take
Oh.
It to the Rank style, where we answer some Twitter questions like this one right here. Kyler Murray or Carson Wentz against the Jets tonight? Reminder that the last time Kyler played the 49ers is when he had his slump. Also noting that Kyler Murray did get banged up last week on Thursday Night Football against the
Right.
Packers. He's been dealing with a little ankle situation.
That was-
Last season, when he had a bad ankle, he wasn't as dominant in fantasy. So I
You
feel like
really-
this is actually a trickier question than people may think.
Honestly, like at the end of last season, Kyler Murray had 10 touchdowns over his last 7 games after a tremendous start. So is this my camera right here? Is this right where I'm looking? Okay, thank you so much. Justin, I want to speak to you privately. I don't want anybody else in your league to hear this, but Carson Wentz is not the backup that I would want moving forward. I think that if Tua Tagovailoa is available in your league, I would go out and pick him up. Maybe even going a little spicier. Why don't you go see if Jordan Love's available? And that way you could wait until Friday to see if Kyler's practicing and make that decision on Sunday instead of having to make it tonight. Because if you're making a decision and it was like if you had a choice between Kyler and Patrick Mahomes, like, okay, like that's,
Yeah.
I'll go
Right.
with Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? But it's Carson Wentz.
No shade.
Like,
All
no
right.
disrespect, but
All right, so maybe hit the waiver
I'd want a
wire.
better
Florio,
option.
this one for you. Rashad Bateman or Hunter Renfrow?
I would go with Rashad Bateman here. He has seen 6 targets in 2 straight games, and I think coming off the bye, he could be a little bit more utilized in this Ravens offense, which is a better passing offense than they get credit for. Plus, he has a big play ability on long catches or even just catch and run. So I like Bateman there.
We all love Bateman, and please pick him up off the waiver wire. We're so confused why he's still available in about 90%
It
of
makes
NFL.com
no
leagues.
sense.
It does not make sense. Let's try to make sense of this question, Rank. Start Naheem Hines, again playing tonight, or Mark Ingram, who's now a New Orleans Saint?
you know, coming into this season, I think it would have been pretty obvious. I would have been like, hit him with the Hines! But you know what? I'm not doing that because they haven't been using him like I wanted them to. So I actually like Mark Ingram in this contest. And a big reason why is with the change at quarterback, whether it's going to be Taysom Hill, whether it's going to be the other guy, Trevor Siemian. I think they're going to have to run the football. And
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity for Mark Ingram to get some fantasy points.
I love it. I'm wearing a throwback Reggie Bush jersey
Which
today, so I'm all
I
in
love that
on
jersey.
Mark Ingram. All right, Florio, this one for you. Pat Freiermuth, who was a sit for Rank, or Kenyon Drake in a 1-point PPR flex spot.
I think here I would go with the running back and go with Kenyon Drake. Since the coaching change there, we have seen him utilized a little bit more. So I would just play with the running back to safer touches over the tight end there.
So Pat Freiermuth was a sit, and now we think he should not
The Bears
be
are
in the lineup.
tough
and
against
instead,
tight
Kenyon
ends.
Drake. I know they are. They are. It's time now to hit the club dub. These are the guys that we guarantee are going to score 25-plus fantasy points this week. So Adam Rank, who are you club dubbing it up for?
You know what? I'm going to go a little off menu. I'm going to go top shelf. Like this is a bottle that's a little dusty, but I'm going to go with Van Jefferson. Just because I want to have every part of this Rams offense that I can get my hands on. Now, I can't just walk in and demand bottle service with Cooper Kupp. Like, that's been sold out for weeks. You can't get that, but you can go to your waiver wire right now, pick up Van Jefferson, get him into your lineup. As you see, thank you for flying that graphic. That's perfect. He's also the Titans have also given up the most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. I think that Van Jefferson is the guy that they wanted Deshaun Jackson to be. So I think Van Jefferson's my guy.
I'm just imagining you ordering bottle service in a club and what those dance moves
Listen,
would look like.
back in the day, actually, no, I don't want to pick up. It makes too much trash. This is why I go to the clubs now and drink water. I don't want to wake up the next day hungover. Similarly, I don't want to shoot this gun because after the show, we spend 20 minutes picking up these dollar bills. So I'm done.
He's not making it rain, but he does feel like
I
Van
do believe
Jefferson
in it, though.
is a good start against the Titans. Who are you club dubbing it up
Frank,
for?
you don't want to shoot your money gun with me?
Please do it. Now go ahead.
It's for Jonathan Taylor. I don't want to wait for Sunday because I'm so excited. There's just more money coming out of this. I'm so excited for Jonathan Taylor tonight. I mean, the Jets give up a bunch of rushing yards per game. They give up the most catches per game, by far the most fantasy points to running backs. Jonathan Taylor's been playing great. He's getting more utilized in the passing game. I think this is a game where the Colts are playing with the lead and they're just going to continue force-feeding Jonathan Taylor the ball. I don't think he is just a club dub 25-plus player. I have him ranked as a top 2 running back on the week this week.
I think he gets into the end zone multiple times
Me
tonight.
too.
Can I say something, too, about
Sure.
Jonathan Taylor?
Sure.
He has 184 yards above expectation.
Holy cow.
Leads the NFL. All I know is Cynthia said that on Total Access, and it sounded totally smart.
So you just ripped
I
it off.
just wanted to get that in there.
I do
Cynthia said that.
remember in one of my leagues that I drafted Jonathan Taylor in the first round. They were like, "That's so dumb.
Right?
He's not
Oh
that
my
great
God.
this season."
It was
And now
so
I'm like,
polarizing this
really,
year.
really. So
Like
we
the
feel
fantasy beard was on, not me, but some other guy.
we feel good about Jonathan Taylor tonight against the Jets, nonetheless. My Club Dub Player of the Week, and you kind of mentioned him earlier. It's Najee Harris versus
There
the
it is.
Bears, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so obvious," but I don't necessarily think that's the case because there are a lot of concerns and a lot of woes around the Steelers' offense. But the one piece that we know is consistently good on a week-to-week basis is Najee Harris. The rookie has exceeded every single expectation. At least 21 touches in each of the past 5 games. In those 5 games, he's had 622 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns, at least 100-plus scrimmage yards in last 4 games played. Now he takes on the Bears, who are a little bit middle of the pack against the running backs, but the last
Over
few
the
weeks,
last couple of weeks,
they've been top 12 of most fantasy points allowed. So I know it could be a little chalky, a little
Maybe
obvious.
it is chalky, but who
But
cares?
it's Najee Harris, and I know that he's going to get you 25-plus fantasy points.
Moving forward, we'll
We'll
recuse
go off.
ourselves from mentioning Najee Harris.
I'm going to
Sorry
be the
that I
only one
defended.
having to clean
No,
up.
I'm going to end up, I'm gonna end up
That's all
helping
you.
you.
This was the Stardom Stidham Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. If you want to see Adam Rank's full list, go to NFL.com/startsits. If you want to see Florio's rankings, go to NFL.com/rankings so we can make sure that your lineups are in the best position for you to exceed. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Good luck tonight, Thursday Night Football. Let's see if JTT can get in the end zone multiple times.
Go Michael Carter, by the way. Play him.
Yeah, him
Yes.
too.
By the way, you can go to NFL.com/rank, which is probably easy.